Chapter 1159, Validation. They won't give blessings. Derek was a little confused by this answer, not fully comprehending it. Back in the afternoon town camp, when he handed the Silver Night Potion formula to Chief Colin Iliad, the other party had praised him for making a huge contribution. He believed that the upper limit of the City of Silver was no longer that of Sequence 4, and his tone didn't reveal the need to seek blessings from external sources. Hence, Derek had always believed that the chief would be able to use the 2 god-level sealed artifacts to complete the Silver Knight's advancement ritual. Now, it was inevitable that he was surprised. Back then, the chief didn't know that the 2 god-level sealed artifacts couldn't provide blessings, and he only realized this problem when he returned to the City of Silver. Derek subconsciously made a guess and didn't ask further. He nodded heavily and said, "All right, I will try my best to help you seek blessings from a deity." Demon Hunter Colin exhaled silently and pointed at the door. "There's no one in the room opposite." Derek turned around and passed through the corridor, entering the half-open room. Then he took a seat and recited softly, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era." The mysterious ruler above the gray fog. The king of yellow and black who wields good luck. Inside Sephra Castle, and hidden within the gray fog, the crimson star representing the sun rapidly expanded and contracted. It kept repeating the process, producing rings of please. And not far beside it, the crimson star representing the magician remained in the same state because of the fool's lack of a response. The circular rings, ripples, and tremors that the two created intertwined and became more intense. Under the illumination of the bolts of lightning, Klein carried a leather lantern and walked into the valley. He suddenly felt that the illusory pleas in his ears became even more chaotic and louder. However, he realized that he had heard it clearer than before. Not only could he tell that the plea came from a woman and a man, but he could also vaguely make out certain content. The woman seemed to mention the world and Backland. The man used Jotun, and the keyword seemed to be a ritual. Ritual Jotun? That's little son. That chief wishes to receive Mr. Fool's blessings. Mr. Fool also needs some blessings right now. The woman might be Miss Magician, but I can't rule out Miss Justice either. The corners of Klein's mouth twitched in embarrassment. He turned his head to look at Ammon in the pointed hat and monocle, and he said, "Can I pop over to Sephra Castle to answer a prayer?" "What do you think?" Ammon was taken aback as he asked in amusement. "Since you want to play such a game, why won't you let it be more exciting?" In fact, Klein didn't have any hope regarding his request. This was because, as long as he could return to Sephra Castle, he could use the power there to make the first step in escaping from his predicament. This was equivalent to getting Ammon to just set him free. The reason he mentioned this was because he wanted to use this to start the subsequent topic. Ammon nudged the crystal monocle with his knuckle and chuckled. "As the god of mischief, I've been alive since the 3rd epoch. I believe you know what that means." "Yes, what do you want to ask?" "This is an accurate grasp of my state of mind and thoughts." Klein sighed and asked, "Why did you parasitize the City of Silver's exploration team back then? You even patiently stayed in the dungeon for decades." Ammon nodded and replied in a relaxed manner, "I had a premonition that the City of Silver would obtain extremely important information. Now, this prophecy has come true, right, Mr. Fool?" He did all of that just to wait for me and the Tarot Club. From the looks of it, this Marauder Pathways King of Angels can see the disturbances in fate caused by Sephra Castle to a certain extent. Klein had never expected the answer, leaving him momentarily at a loss as to how to continue the topic. After about 10 seconds, he sighed and said, "You're really patient." He was a king of angels who liked to play pranks. Yet, he actually stayed inside a dark dungeon without any sources of entertainment for decades. "This has nothing to do with patience. It didn't take too much of my time," Ammon casually replied. "I'm still used to using a human's standards when talking about a deity." To Ammon, who was born as a complete mythical creature, a few decades is nothing. He might even be more than 3,000 years old. Klein regulated what he knew and asked again, "The City of Silver is one of the few places that persist on believing in your father. Aren't you going overboard with what you did to the expedition team?" This question didn't seem to be necessary, but Klein believed that it would aid him in understanding Ammon's thoughts and style, doing so in order to see if there was anything that could be used. Ammon turned his head and glanced at him with his monocled right eye. He said with an indifferent smile, "If it wasn't for their faith in my father, the city of Silver would have already been reduced to ruins." Heh heh, according to my observations, they're hiding quite a significant secret. As for what it is, because of the gaze directed by you and the Hanged Man, I haven't had the chance to pry into it. A trueborn mythical creature. The deaths of just a few humans might be equivalent to trampling a few ants to death. He wouldn't take it to heart at all. The City of Silver actually has a secret that even Ammon thinks is a big secret. What could it be? Klein thoughtfully changed the topic. Was Dark Angel Sasrir really created from your father's rib? This was something that Klein had wanted to ask the entire time, but he hadn't found the opportunity to ask. The smile on Ammon's face faded as he looked at the darkness in front of him. Yes, he separated a portion of his characteristics and corresponding negative personalities. He used his rib as the material to create Dark Angel Sasrir. If that wasn't the case, how could a proud and arrogant person like Medici obey the so-called left hand of God, the deputy of heaven? Without Sasrir's rebellion, implication, and influence, even if Evernight, Earth, god of combat, and the other kings of angels joined forces, it's impossible for my father to perish. Indeed, Dark Angel Sasrir is the most key factor in this matter. It's no wonder the goddess wanted to bewitch him at the very beginning. Who would have thought that he would betray himself? Klein's initial speculation of the battle of gods had been confirmed. He felt his Scholar of Your potion digest a little more. He deliberately hesitated and made a guess. Could your father have foreseen such a development? Dark Angel Sasrir is also the key to his resurrection. Ammon suddenly laughed. You asked so many questions in order to further digest the Scholar of Your potion, right? Klein pretended to break out in cold sweat, and he quickly adjusted his state of mind. I'm just curious. What are you looking for in the Forsaken Land of the Gods? What are you pursuing? The Marauder Pathway sequence 1B characteristic that you're missing isn't here, nor is Sephra Castle. Are you trying to revive your father? Ammon maintained his smile and looked straight ahead. Yes and no. My zealous brother is already very close to reviving my father. He probably doesn't need my help anymore. Adam really wants to revive the ancient sun god. I thought that he was purely doing it for the sake of becoming a Sequence Zero. Without hiding anything, Klein called out the name of the Twilight Hermit Order's leader. He was even looking forward to Adam beating his younger brother up. Of course, beating someone up wasn't in line with the style of a king of angels of the Spectator Pathway. There's no need to mention his name. He won't interfere with my matters, nor will I interfere with his. I don't address him as Adam, because I think that a nickname like Zealous is very suitable for him. I have to say that Medici is very talented in giving nicknames. Also, even if I say his name, he wouldn't be able to hear it if I don't wish for him to hear it. At this moment, the monocled Ammon smiled as he exposed Klein's idea. Following that, Klein didn't mention the Dark Angel any further, because it was obvious that Ammon wouldn't answer. Before long, the man and angel walked out of the valley and saw a silent city. More than half of the buildings in this city had collapsed. The remaining ones had a sharp roof, as though they were towers that led to heaven. On the surface, dark red vines and plants grew, forming fruits whose edibility was unknown. After entering the city, he discovered that there were stone coffins placed in front of each house. Inside were skeletons or recently rotted corpses. A common point between them was them being greatly deformed. Some had 4 legs, some had a slit in the middle of their eyebrows, some lacked skin, directly revealing their flesh. Some had arms wrapped around their necks like tails. This was originally a city that believed in the phoenix. Later, it converted its target of faith to my father, but it retained some customs related to death. The monocled Ammon casually sized up his surroundings and said, after the cataclysm, they were left behind in the Forsaken Land of the Gods. However, there were no edible, relatively normal plants around them, so they could only eat those corrupted monsters. Over generations, their bodies began to produce defects and psychological problems. Eventually, they were completely wiped out. The cataclysm brought about by the goddess's assassination of the City of Silver's creator really was a calamity for civilization. Before that, there were elven, giant, phoenix civilizations, and so on. After that, all that's left are traces of them. When Klein thought of the city that had been swallowed into the ground, he sighed. In the history books, in mysticism, it was very apt to call that history the cataclysm. He paused for a moment before asking, "Why are we entering this city instead of going around it?" Ammon smiled and said, "In the second epoch, apart from wielding the death pathway, the Phoenix ancestor also occupied part of the apprentice pathway. Some of the decorations here can become a loophole that I can make use of to shorten our journey to our final destination." Klein's expression immediately darkened.